Hello and welcome to the France 24 interview. Our guest today is the first Vice President of Afghanistan, Amrullah Saleh. He joins us from Kabul. Thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Mr. Saleh, the Biden administration is reviewing its policy in Afghanistan. According to the deal signed a year ago between the Taliban and the Trump administration, the U.S. is supposed to withdraw its 2,500 last soldiers on May 1st. Are you calling on the U.S. to slow this withdrawal because the conditions are not ripe?
First of all, we highly welcome the decision to review the Doha Agreement between the United States and the Taliban, because the Taliban have not remained committed and they have not honored their commitments, and they have violated brazenly everything that they promised on February 29, 2020. But in the meantime, another report appeared conducted by the Afghanistan Study Group, which is a bipartisan Congress-mandated group which did the study, and it also advises the U.S. administration to move very cautiously. However, what we call upon the United States is to look at the history of this group, look at their behavior. They have not stood by their promises in the past. And I would say the United States national and security interest would not allow an exit without putting verification mechanisms in place to ensure that Afghanistan does not become a safe haven for terrorists. And Taliban have not separated themselves from Qaeda and other global terror outfits.
Are you calling on the Biden administration to simply abrogate this deal? Because you're saying the Taliban are not up to what they promised they would do. So are you calling on simply the Biden administration not only to slow the withdrawal, but to ditch the Doha Agreement?
Well, I'm not making any unnecessary call on anyone. I'm saying United States is our core ally, and they have been very generous with us over the past 2 decades, and they still have a footprint in Afghanistan. All I'm saying is no one in the United States can come up and solidly say that the Taliban are no longer a terrorist group and they are not harboring other terror groups. All I'm saying is our international partners need to listen to their intelligence services, need to listen to the think tank communities, to the strategist community of their own countries. As far as we on the ground see, the Taliban have not changed. They have not honored any of their commitments made on February 29, 2020.
Are they still linked to Al-Qaeda? Because this was one of the conditions, that there were severe ties with Al-Qaeda in addition to a reduction of violence, which didn't happen, obviously.
Well, let me quote United Nations' latest report on Afghanistan. The United Nations has come up with a report which they have managed to corroborate. Shows that after February 2020, when Taliban committed not to host the Al-Qaeda, they still had Al-Qaeda operatives in their ranks, and 3 Al-Qaeda leaders were neutralized in November 2020, months after they had promised to separate themselves from global terror networks. And also UN estimates that today, as I am speaking to you, at least 500 foreign terrorists, largely affiliated with Al-Qaeda, are fighting alongside the Taliban in Afghanistan.
The Taliban have said that if the Doha deal is abrogated, there will be war.
The Taliban have not stopped the war for a second. The only recorded ceasefire they had was in 2018. Since they have not stopped killing for a second, for a day, for a minute. So I'm not surprised that they have vowed to continue the war. I don't know what do they mean if they say that the war will resume. It never stopped.
Among the decisions, the difficult decisions, I should add, that were made by the government of Afghanistan was freeing 5,000 prisoners as part of this peace deal. There are reports that many of them have returned to fighting. The Taliban deny the allegation. What is your intelligence saying about those prisoners?
Not only our intelligence, but also independent studies conducted by international organizations suggest with solid evidence as to support this suggestion and the claim that over 85% of these released prisoners are back in the scene. They are involved in massacre of the Afghan civilians. They have unleashed violence. So that is one of the big regrets, political regrets we had. And as you know, the Afghan people gave us a moral mandate to release them because up to about 400 of them were in the death row, and the president of Afghanistan cannot simply release a person in the death row. And he had to bring the Loya Jirga, the Grand Assembly of the Afghan people's representatives, and they said, let's do a sacrifice for peace. Let's show a noble gesture and release these people. We did. It was not reciprocated, and the commitment to not allow them end back in the battlefield was not honored. They are fighting us. Many dozens of them have been killed again in the fighting, but they largely remain active, leading terror cells, committing crimes in the cities and in the rural areas of Afghanistan. So it was a sacrifice. We did give that sacrifice. We thought this will be reciprocated. It was not reciprocated. A big mistake.
Right, a big mistake. In addition to this deal between the U.S. And the Taliban, there have also been discussions between the Afghan government and the Taliban hosted in Doha. There haven't been meetings in over 3 weeks. Are those negotiations over in your eyes?
Well, the problem is the Taliban, so far they have gained unnecessary elevation. They have gained very false confidence. So they believe that the negotiations with Afghanistan government is unnecessary, and United States just wash its hand and go away and let them to start a campaign of massacre and take power by conquest. Remember, Mark, Taliban in their very, very core are no different from Pol Pot. Only their religion is different. Their behavior is nothing different than Pol Pot. They don't believe in inclusivity, they don't believe in pluralism, they don't believe in engagement with the communities. So therefore, they have a very wrong impression and understanding of the Doha Agreement. And we have to bring them back to the reality, back to the ground, and tell them you are a group, you are not a state. You are not even a dominating group. And I think the wrong way of negotiating with them gave them unnecessary and false confidence.
When I hear Mr. Saleh, I mean, the logical thing would be for you to say, let's stop talking to the Taliban and fight them. The U.S. should stop talking to them. The Afghan government should be talking to them, should stop talking to them. Why not say it out loud?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. All I am saying is, let's take the reality into ground and treat it as a reality. I am saying we are ready to talk to the Taliban to pursue a political settlement, to pursue a negotiated settlement. All I am trying to prove to you that we are not the guilty part. We are not the sinful part. They are the guilty. They are the sinful. They have abandoned the negotiations table. They are the ones who are massacring members of this civil society. They are the ones who are gunning down journalists in order to silence the broad support for the system of republic in my country. I had to prove to you that despite giving all these sacrifices, we remained a straightforward and committed party to the negotiations.
Just the last question. The U.S. Special Envoy, who was in charge of the negotiations with them, Salman Khalilzad, has been retained by the Biden administration. Is he still the right man to negotiate in Afghanistan?
Well, we as the government of Afghanistan, we look at the United States as a country, as a state, and we respect their policy. We do not necessarily find it wise or suitable to comment on elements. The Biden administration's policy on Afghanistan seems sound, it seems deep, and there is respect. And more important than anything else, they are looking at the situation with wide eyes and open ears, and we welcome it.
Right. As a conclusion, was Donald Trump wrong on Afghanistan?
Well, he is history.
Mr. Saleh, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for watching this edition of the interview here on France 24.
Our reporters take us deep into the Amazon rainforest to the village of Kako, where the Hmong people arrived from Indochina 40 years ago.
Ici, on a trouvé notre terre, donc la Guyane française.
There was nothing when they arrived. Everything you see is down to their hard work. Roads, schools, homes, crops.
Ils nous font vivre la Guyane avec leurs plantations, avec leurs légumes, ce qui reste très important pour nous.
Once used as backup troops by the French in the Indochina War of the 1950s, the Hmong people have successfully integrated into Guyana's multi-ethnic society. Join us to discover these former refugees and their crucial role in their adopted homeland. In Revisited on France 24 and France24.com.